Welcome to People First Builders, celebrating leaders in construction who build success through their people. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, your host. I'm the CEO of Discover.ai, a performance hiring software helping small and mid-sized AEC companies solve their hardest problem, people. We help people first leaders install and execute repeatable talent acquisition systems that drive business results by hiring top performers, lowering turnover, and building world-class company cultures. Stick around to the end and you can learn more about how to become a guest on our podcast and share your story with the world. Welcome to the People First Builders podcast. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, and I'm really excited to have with me today Brad Strawbridge. He's the founder and CEO of Capital City Roofing and the chief strategy officer and equity partner at Builderlync and founder of Feeding the Future project. Brad Strawbridge is a systems-driven operator building at the intersection of roofing, technology, and mission-focused leadership. As a founder and CEO of Capital City Roofing, he has scaled a multimillion-dollar roofing company by prioritizing operational infrastructure, AI-powered automation, and EOS execution over hustle-based growth. In parallel, Brad serves as the chief strategy and equity partner at Builderlync, a construction technology platform designed to unify sales, production, vendors, and accounting into a single operational ecosystem. He is also the founder of Feeding the Future project, a nonprofit focused on dignity-centered community restoration. Brad brings executive leadership experience from Lowe's companies and commercial roofing operations, blending corporate systems thinking with field-level practicality. So, Brad, I was checking you out, before, and you obviously have had quite the career. It looks like you had served in kind of a senior leadership role and throughout the Lowe's organization, which is an amazing organization and definitely not one that they have high expectations for performance. Tell us just a little bit about that and how you transitioned into a more entrepreneurial journey and how that's led you to these tech. And I guess you're running a traditional roofing company too, as well. Like, how did that all come about?
Yeah. So first of all, Fletcher, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And because I like talking about my story, and I like telling my story to folks who have audiences that are interested in people, right? And so when I started with Lowe's, I was an hourly employee. I was driving a delivery truck,
Nice.
believe it or not, delivering appliances. And I had my very first mentor I had. His name's Greg Gilmore. He's a retired general manager now for Lowe's. He had come out after I'd got done running my route, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Sir, I'm working. What are you doing?" I was in my early 20s at the time,
Yeah.
right? And he said, "No, no, no. What are you doing? Driving a delivery truck." He's like, "You've got leadership potential. All your peers look up to you, this and that." And he's like, I've got an opportunity I want you to do inside the store." And I said, I've never even been inside the store other than shopping. I said,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to use a cash register. I don't know anything about it. But I liked him and I trusted him as an individual. And so I said, you know what? Why not?
Yeah.
And so, one thing led to another. I worked my way up through Lowe's, ran a couple of stores, and then became the district manager over in-home services for Atlanta. And that's
Nice.
what brought me to Atlanta from Florida was Lowe's. And I noticed during COVID, I noticed something, which was there were two verticals. Because if you think about Lowe's, we install everything we sell, basically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
You
so,
have a big in-home services. So come to you and I can go do my own roof, or maybe there's an associate there that'll say, "Hey, why don't we do it for you?"
yeah,
or bathroom remodel or anything, right?
yeah,
And for the most part, I think you guys will handle.
yeah. So I was kind of in charge of all of that, and I noticed that there was two categories that we weren't just positive during COVID. double digit comped, and it was HVAC and roofing.
Hmm.
And my faith is very big to me. And so I think, there's nothing that happens that isn't for a reason, right? And
Yeah.
so during that specific period of time, I had a notification um, to say, hey, there's a commercial roofing company in Atlanta that's looking to, add director level leadership, and would you like to have a conversation? And I
Okay.
said, I think I would like
Yeah.
to have a conversation. So I did, and then one thing led to another, and I left Lowe's for this position. Never in a million years thought I would have left Lowe's. I bled blue.
Yeah.
I met my wife at Lowe's. We even had a Lowe's wedding. Our whole
Wow.
store came to it. I mean, I was Lowe's through and through, right? And
Wow.
so took a leap of faith and got into the roofing industry and fell in love with it, quite frankly, because it's solving a critical need.
Yeah.
It's quite lucrative, which is always a great thing, and the gap between okay and great is a huge gap,
Yeah.
and the people in that space are few and far between.
Yeah.
There's a lot that are okay, and then there's quite a few that are great, but there's not much in the middle. And so
Yeah.
to make that leap, it's relatively, I'm not going to say easy because it kind of discounts the profession, but it's there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah.
And so I did that and helped that company scale quickly in about a year, maybe year and a half. And so I told my wife, she's my business partner.
Oh, nice.
I told my wife, I said, "Hey, I think we should start our own."
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh my goodness, I don't know."
Yeah.
And I said, "You don't think we can do it?" And she said, "No, no, 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 no. I know you can do it. I don't know." She said, "I don't know if I'm ready to do it."
Yeah.
I said, "You'll figure it out. You're great. Let's do it." And so and so we did,
How
and
all best businesses get started, by the way.
yeah, and I tell you, I wish I would have done it a long time ago.
Yeah.
I'm 38. I just turned 38, and I started Capital City Roofing in 24. So
Okay.
going on right at around 2 years, and but I wish I would have done it in my mid 20s. I really do.
So where did the
Um,
tech come into this equation?
Yeah, so first by necessity, right? Because at Lowe's, I had all the technology
Yeah.
I needed right at my fingertips. I didn't have to think about it, you
Yeah.
know?
You have a
It was,
lot of infrastructure and a lot of tools and a lot of resources at your exposure. And so yeah, So yeah, so how did you come about the tech then? What did you do about this?
so obviously, I mean, shoot, I start the company, and then it's like, okay, well, I don't have Microsoft Dynamics, I don't have Salesforce, I don't have these things that I had previously
Yeah.
just there
And
inside
and you,
my
and you can't
computer.
afford them as a small business.
No, no, not at all. And so I started the arduous journey of trying and vetting and using all these different pieces of software that as a contractor that you need. And what I found was I ended up needing about 8 different pieces of software to perform essentially one end goal, which was servicing my end customer and invoicing them and recording it in QuickBooks, right?
Yeah.
And I said, it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be
Yeah.
this kind of segmented. And so as again, just circumstance or happenstance, I met an individual who had a little bit of experience in contracting, but he had a lot of experience working with contractors because
Mm.
he owns a marketing agency and some other kind of contractor adjacent
Services.
services.
Yeah.
And so he had the same type of thought process and vision.
Yeah.
He's like, I wanna build a software where you can do everything in one login,
Yeah.
one source of truth from end to end, everything in between. He said, if you can dream it, I can build it.
Okay.
And we have two other partners in that venture, which is Builderlync, and they're both roofing company owners as
Yeah.
well. And so what we've been able to do is provide all of this firsthand feedback and pain points and wish lists about
Yeah.
what we would want a software to do, and we've built it.
Yeah.
And we're in beta right now, and we've got about 50 other roofing companies that are working through beta with us, and again, given that same type of feedback.
Yeah.
And when it's done, it's going to be powerful,
Yeah.
really, really, really powerful.
Yeah, there's two schools of thought in software development. One is, don't be an industry expert and go and hopefully do a good job of doing some like forward deployed engineering type of activities and just really inspect the business and then look to develop solutions around those things. And the other one is be a practitioner of the business and in the weeds day in and day out, and then develop tools around that solve your problem and then productize those into helping other people like you solve a similar problem, right? And so it's a great path to be able to say firsthand that this is something that is that you become the first case study in your own product side of it. And that's great that you've been able to invite so many other organizations in to assist as well. So you go from an environment that has all the resources, systems, processes, playbooks, to do great work to in order to essentially two startups, right? So a little bit about Capital City. Are you guys you're more focused on the commercial side of things, or are you guys more?
So we are focused on the commercial side of things.
Yeah,
And personally, I'm an expert at commercial
yeah,
roofing. Um, but the journey of a roofing contractor is very specific. When you start out, you're going to be residential heavy.
yeah. Typically,
Right.
easier to get that customer, easier to service that customer, right?
It is. And in the acquisition piece of it, right? You don't just run Google pay-per-click and Facebook ads and get
Hmm.
commercial contracts, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Those are
Or door
relation.
knocking. I mean, it's pretty
Exactly.
traditional. Yeah,
Right. And so those are relationship based. So
yeah,
obviously it takes, on that roadmap, it takes longer to kind of penetrate that market, but we've done a pretty good job at that quickly too. So we do both, and we have visions to do a lot more commercial, and at some point we will split the company,
yeah.
and it will be two entities. One will be commercial, one will be residential, because they are very different businesses. They're completely different businesses.
Yeah, the skill set, the tools, just the type of environments that you're working in, and
Yeah.
roofs that you're having to deal with are quite different, I imagine, and the customer's needs as well, right?
Yeah, exactly right. They're
Yeah,
two completely different customers too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and
So
then
how did you scale that business? I mean, what kind of people were you hiring at first? So your wife or you two partnered up, and so you had a team of two. How many folks you have on the team now? What does that look like from an evolution? It's been a short 2 years, right? Who are some of your next hires, and what does the team look like today? Who's on there now?
yeah, so we it has evolved quickly, and so I was very blessed to have a wonderful partner with Tiffany, my wife. She's just amazing. And I mean, she equals like three people already. So
Yeah, yeah,
we had a good head start. And then I was really lucky to have, again, about regardless of what we're selling, what product, what service, whatever, we are in the people business, right?
yeah,
And so I've done a pretty decent job of never burning bridges, always being kind and respectful, and kind of nurturing relationships as I go. And so a lot of people, when they heard I started my own business, they wanted to be a part
they
of
were
it.
knocking at your door.
Yeah, they wanted to be a part of it, and not just employees, sales guys, things like that, but manufacturer partners and distributor partners and subcontractor folks. I've got my best shingle crew
Yeah,
is a guy who I hired when I was at Parsons Roofing.
Yeah.
And now he's got his own. He started his own business. He's my number one subcontractor, and he used to be a W-2 employee for me. And so
Yeah.
the dynamic there is very special.
Well, it's interesting you said something earlier. You're like, I should have done this sooner. And, I might challenge that a little bit. I mean, that lifelong experience that you had. And, I spent a lot of time in around the Home Depot ecosystem. I have an interesting story we could say for another time there, but, I always admired that ecosystem of how they develop people within it. And it was very similar to the story you told. I knew a lot of GMs and a lot of district managers, and many of them were great leaders and they were really good at developing people. The story about you going off the delivery truck or the service truck to, into the store and then developing into a leader and to a manager and, senior leader, right, is not an uncommon one for either of those organizations, right? And you learn a lot of skills that you may not have gotten. I think a lot of people who do go out a little too early in their journey have to learn some of those lessons the hard way. They don't have the mentors available to them, right?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, our path is our path, and
Yeah,
it's always in perfect timing because I'll tell you, a lot of people don't realize this, but leaders in retail, big box retail, paced hospitality, hotels, restaurants, we experience everything.
oh yeah,
There's no MBA program in the world that could have taught me what I learned running even when I was a GM running a $50 million box,
yeah,
150 employees, $50 million annually, essentially open 24/7 because we had overnight stocking. And so
yep.
you're on call, you're the guy,
Yeah,
it
when something
it
when something goes wrong, and
yeah,
if you don't want to be taking calls at 2 a.m., you develop and create great teams that are
that's right.
performing at a high level so that you can sleep at night,
So
right?
then, yeah, you learn how to be very proactive so that way you can set yourself up to make your life easier on the back. And yeah, and those types of nuanced things, there's not a textbook that you're going to learn that in. It's by doing. And in those environments, you sink or swim, right? You figure it out or you don't. And luckily for me, I was able to figure it
Yeah.
out.
Well, you nailed, I think, what the number one strategy is for attracting or acquiring great talent, which is through referrals, right? And that was through all those relationships. So, but I like how you pointed out that, you intentionally throughout your career had made it a point to, develop relationships or, be kind to people and to nurture those to some degree. And you probably didn't know where that was going to lead you necessarily, but the fact that you had that mindset to begin with and that was ingrained in how you operated then made it very easy when it was time to say call or have them just come to you, or when you want to come to them and say, hey, I need I'm looking for this person, they're gonna take your phone call. That's a pretty interesting path there, and I think an important one to remind everybody about. That, I mean, it is always the number one source. There's massive studies on this. One of the bigger ones is 20,000 people, 20,000 leaders surveyed. 87% of hires that come from referrals turn out to be good to great. Now it's not 100% because we're humans, so there's nothing perfect about the human experience here, but 87% is phenomenal. And imagine you're experiencing something similar to that. You're probably batting 100 at this point, Uh,
Oh, not quite that good. We
yeah,
we there's always churn, right?
yeah.
Always. But yeah, I mean, there's the quality of candidate from a referral, especially if it's someone that you, right, know, like, and trust.
Intimately know because you worked with them closely in the past. Yeah,
Yeah, they typically work out, and they typically have that same. Well, and here's the thing. They typically share your core values,
yeah,
which is the biggest thing. We run religiously on EOS,
yeah,
and then that makes hiring very simple because
yeah,
it's at the end of the day, I can teach anybody roofing, right? I can't teach you to have integrity and want to be excellent
yeah,
and to be transparent and honest and a good teammate. I can't teach you those things,
And
right?
it's very hard to assess for as well. And so having the referral where you have that past track record, right, in a 30-minute interview or even a 30-minute and a 2 hour interview, having to evaluate people for some of those core values is a challenging thing to do. There's definitely tools and strategies to help doing those things, but when you have 5 years or a year or even 6 months of work history with somebody where you were side by side or collaborating with them, you get to see that like really come out, or you have a lot more confidence that they embody those values, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you solve your talent sourcing problem, which is one of the biggest challenges, I think, in the construction industry, is just how do I fill my funnel with high quality people? And you've done that through really nice natural progression and awareness. Um, how have you dealt with the transition from, say, a bigger corporate or organizations with a lot more infrastructure to now we're a small business, and things don't work the same way they do at Lowe's, I imagine, right? I mean, I'm sure you're implementing, it's, small business starts as a ragtag, like we're just figure it out kind of group of people. Obviously you're building the software engine to assist with that. That's like one piece of that. Is there anything else that was maybe a shock to you, and how are you making that transition? Not maybe just for yourself, but maybe your people. I mean, imagine some of these people have come from a bigger, more well-resourced environment as well. Now they're going to a less resourced startup environment, right?
Yeah, so I was very lucky to kind of know the mistakes not to make.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is not trying to go too fast, not trying to put the cart before the horse, not trying to generate revenue for the sake of generating revenue wildly with no plan, right?
Yeah.
A lot of small businesses when they start up, that's the mistake they make. And
They
so
go they go in maybe too low on price. They take a project they probably shouldn't take, kind of thing. Or
or just not having written SOPs. And that's
yeah,
the main thing. Like the first thing you need to do before you run your business is write it all out.
have
And
a
it doesn't
plan.
have
Have a plan.
yeah, it doesn't
Seems
have to
so
be
simple, right?
it doesn't have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, it won't be perfect and you will change it, but you'll be able to change it in the moment,
Yeah.
right? You'll be able to say, here's my SOP for lead intake. Okay, I did it that way. This part worked great. This part didn't. I'm gonna change that now,
Yep.
and then move on, right? And you do that throughout. I don't know where it is, but I've got a binder, and I
Yeah.
could hand it to you, Fletcher, and I could say, here, go start a roofing company, and you're gonna go start a successful roofing company because it's written in such a way that you can understand it,
Yeah.
and you can execute it, and that's the secret.
Yeah.
That's it sounds easy. It's not. It's very, very difficult, but it's
It,
simple.
yeah.
You
And I
know?
talk to people about that in hiring all the time. They go say, I need to hire a role, and maybe have hired for that role many times before, superintendent or, a roofer or what foreman or whatever it is. And sometimes it gets highlighted in scenarios where they don't hire that often. I got to hire a controller. I've never hired for that before, but Um, you know, the people I see people steal job descriptions from their competitors. They write them with Chat GPT, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, but they miss this glaring first step, which is this what we call in the talent business a very boring name, job analysis, which is basically creating set of SOPs that are clearly define what good looks like and how to achieve good, right? So most job descriptions are a list of like tasks. So it's a lot of hows, but not uh, guided by the North Star of what good looks like, right? So the measurable outcomes or the sentiment, the feeling. We want our customers to have a wow experience, and we're going to measure that through a um, customer satisfaction, survey or something like that, right? So it's a pretty similar concept, I think that. So you're pointing out again another really like people just skip the planning phase. Why
Yeah,
is that?
yeah. Well, it's not fun. It's not.
Yeah,
It's a little boring. It's not fun, and especially if you are the personality type that is going to be an entrepreneur, you're
Yeah.
already the personality type that probably either has ADD or
Yeah.
undiagnosed ADD, and you're a type A and you're a high achiever and you want to hit the ground running and you got something to prove and stopping all of that to sit down and plan and document and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not the most fun thing to do, but it is the most important, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, we see a lot of construction leaders come out of the trades, or they've had it, they've grown up in it. It's a family business, or, they've came up in the trades, or they came up through construction management. They were superintendent, they were project manager, or some other kind of executive, not unlike your journey in some ways, right? And they were good at that working for somebody else. And they may or may not have had structure in that environment, but they figured it out and they had their own system right in between these 2 years, right? And and again, I think that's where this stop and plan thing, right, becomes so important. Is like, okay, you have it all inside your head. You do. You're good at your job. That's why you're doing this and why you have the confidence to go out and do these things. But to like pause, take a deep breath, and realize that the people you bring into your ecosystem do not have that roadmap in their head. They do not have that blueprint so clearly visualized as you do, right? And so, yeah, it's important to just, unpack what's inside your brain that you know so well, and get it into a clear set of measurable expectations and activities that you can actually share with other people, and hold them accountable to, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. Um, what has been kind of the biggest, challenge that you face so far in starting up a new roofing company, and also, going straight from zero to into commercial? I mean, what are some of the biggest challenges that you face on the people side, and what else have you done to modify that SOP playbook,
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because it's exactly what I am experiencing right now. So in my organization, I am currently handling all of the commercial estimating,
Yeah.
um, because one, I haven't had time to train anybody to do it because I've just needed to be getting the estimates out.
Yeah.
So I'm at a tipping point or a crossroads to where I have to slow down to speed up because
Hmm.
there's a ceiling, right? If I'm the only guy doing the stuff that's needed, I only have a certain amount of capacity,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm going to have to slow down, maybe dip productivity for a brief period of
Right.
time so that way I can pull away and develop someone to take some of that off of my plate, or I won't be able to grow. And I'm aware of that. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm at right now. And we've had really good success. Matter of fact, I had an interview before this call, and then I
Nice.
have another one scheduled afterwards. We've been having great luck finding candidates on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Just
Especially that caliber commercial estimating, level, right?
yeah, because it really is. It's a professional level,
Yeah.
and it's not just a job; it's a career. People get
Yeah.
into commercial estimating,
Yeah.
and
Commercial estimators in construction are, the most valuable asset in a commercial construction company of any kind, let alone, the roofing side of it.
yeah,
Right. So, and they tend to be very challenging to find. And but they're worth their weight in gold. So yeah, I think this is an interesting observation that you're making, because again, we see a lot of small business, construction leaders run into that same problem, especially on the commercial side, as you're dealing with that they're the only one that can handle that estimating job, and that becomes the bottleneck
yeah.
for most of these businesses. And until they can figure out how to delegate that successfully to somebody who is, really, really good, and trust them, That's another piece of it. So the leaders often I see they just can never like let go, right? They're just like, I can't do it. And then the other challenge that you're highlighting is they also like, I can't afford the investment because that just comes right off the bottom line when you hire this person, and
Yep.
they will not be fully productive on day one by any
Yep.
stretch. And it might probably take up to a year to get them close to full production and many months to get them somewhat productive. And this is probably true even if they come from the business in many cases, because you have a different roadmap than wherever they came from in many cases. And so then we see these leaders just unwilling to make that investment of time, energy, cash, and because they don't want to give up their top or bottom line activity in the short term, right?
Right.
How have you reconciled with that?
So those decisions are all fear-based decisions, right?
Yeah.
It's fear. It's
Yeah.
fear. It's fear of missing out on potential revenue. It's fear of how am I going to afford it? It's fear of what if the person doesn't work out? And so fear keeps a lot of people stuck. And
Yeah.
not just in the business world, right? Just
Yeah.
kind of universally.
Yeah. Period. Yeah.
And what I've done, as a matter of fact, I just got done writing a book on this. I haven't published it yet. But it talks about having audacious faith and courage to, despite having that feeling of fear, to know that if I'm confident in what I'm doing and I've planned it and I've calculated it and
So you
it
must have a
won't,
lot of systems and processes you've developed around how you guys are doing your estimating activity as well. So you got some confidence. Now you've done it the reps enough times.
yeah. And so I know that, and one, I'm not going to miss out on future opportunities because it's reasonable for me to tell a client, I'm at capacity right now. I can't bid on this because I would be doing you a disservice because I
Yeah.
only want to give you my best, right?
Yeah.
That's going to go a lot further than being overwhelmed at capacity, maybe cutting a corner, making a mistake, whatever it
That
is.
customer might say, well, how much?
Yeah, right.
Too,
It could
right?
turn into a good thing, right? Could be
Yeah.
like, well, how much do I have?
How
What's it
much
going
do
to
I got to
cost?
pay you to get this done for me, right?
Right.
So, well, okay, that might change the equation, right? It's a supply and demand problem. And if you're
Yeah.
doing a good job, high quality work for people, they'll say, I hear you're at capacity and you're unable to do more work for me, but you're far superior to your competitors, and I'd rather pay you more to do the work than have to deal with the headaches of a substandard partner, right?
Yep. Yep. Exactly right. And so once you take that, because the fear is always going to be there. There's no, but if somebody is like, oh, I'm fearless. I don't get scared. They're
Yeah,
they're full of
yeah,
it, right?
that's BS. Yeah,
Yeah. Everybody has fear, but it's having the discipline to have confidence in yourself, or for me, I have faith in God that
yeah,
as long as I am doing the right thing and I plan accordingly, it'll work out.
yeah,
It's at least going to work out the way it's supposed to work out,
yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
I'm able to kind of operate within those guardrails, and so far it's been working out.
That's really, really great message across the board there. I think for people to think about. It really reminds me of a book I read, Thinking in Bets from Annie Duke, and she's the world champion poker player, and she wrote a cool book. It's worth checking out, everybody. Um, but it's the same kind of concept. It's like you don't totally know what the outcome's going to be with anything, but if you've planned and you understand, you have a system and you have a process and you've got intentionality behind that, then you can make a calculated risk and know what your up and downside is going to be to that, and then have faith, right? That it's going to work out and it's going to work out the way it's supposed to. And even if it doesn't, you can sleep at night because of that faith that you had, and whether that's be higher power or that you had a great plan and system that was well thought out. That again, we're in the people business, so there's no perfection in that, but it will work out the way it's supposed to. And you keep making good bets, you will win, right?
That's right. Yes, sir.
Awesome. How can folks find you?
I'm almost everywhere at this point. I've done a pretty good job of trying to be omnipresent, as they say.
What's your favorite channels and best way?
Yeah. So LinkedIn, love LinkedIn. Very active on LinkedIn. Brad Strawbridge, capitalcityroofing.net, Builderlync, and link is spelled lync.com.
Nice.
bradstrawbridge.com. You can find me on Pinterest if you really want to too.
Oh, wow.
We're everywhere. We're on all the socials, and we do a pretty decent job of staying active and responding to messages and that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, if you're looking for an A-plus, roofer, or you're interested in streamlining your core operations with some better tech, then definitely would recommend you reach out to Brad. You've got a lot of really, really wise insights, so I really appreciate you sharing those with us today. And we'll make sure that all your contact information's available on all the different channels that we'll distribute this podcast on.
That's amazing. Thank you, Fletcher. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening to our People First Builders podcast. If you're a successful construction CEO and would like to tell your story on this program, please visit our podcast homepage, FletcherWimbush.com/peoplefirstbuilders, or check it out in the notes below. If you got something out of this interview and would like to share the episode on socials, we always appreciate that. Just take a quick screenshot with your phone, text it to a friend, or post it to the socials. If you know someone who might be a great guest, tag them on social and let them know. And don't forget, #PeopleFirstBuilders. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new content. To make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. Your thumbs up and ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, FletcherWimbush.com, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.